You ever have one of those mornings where you look out your window and think, well, this is it, the world's finally gone completely nuts? Because let me tell you, that's exactly where I was the day 20 massive charter buses rolled up to my open gate, belching out 400 tourists into the good old Montana sun, 94 degrees, not a lick of shade, everybody snapping photos like they'd just stumbled onto the set of Yellowstone. And there in the middle of this circus stands Darlene, the HOA, president of a neighborhood I don't even live in, waving her megaphone and shouting about some official heritage tour. And all I could think was, lady, you have absolutely no idea what's about to happen. See, I'm Hollis Brennan, 52, spent a quarter century in the Army Corps of Engineers before I inherited my granddad's 240 acres of wild Montana. The land Dutch Brennan bought in 1947 with money earned and blood spilled all the way from Normandy to the Rhine. He came back from that hell and built something you can't put a price on, not wealth, but a legacy. The kind of place with hot springs tucked away in a valley, trails he carved himself, and a wildlife corridor left untouched for 70 years. His last words to me: keep it wild, Hollis. Don't let them pave paradise. I promised I would pack up my life in Seattle and came home, restored the old ranch house, ran a modest timber operation, split some wood, tracked some elk, watched sunsets, raised 2 good daughters, Ramsey, my environmental lawyer, and Cleo, the paramedic. Quiet, steady life. For a year, everything was perfect. Then the developers moved in next door, Pinnacle Ridge Estates, a luxury subdivision selling faux rustic mansions with more garages than sense. The HOA 47-page rulebook about grass height and mailbox fonts. I laughed so hard reading it the first time I snorted coffee out my nose. But then I met Darlene Voss, a Connecticut real estate broker with a helmet of blonde hair and a mint green blazer you could spot from orbit. She became president in 6 months flat, ran unopposed, started wielding bylaws like weapons. Folks over there got fined for their dogs barking past 9 p.m., for mailbox numbers being the wrong font. People were terrified. And then she set her sights on me. One spring morning, she corners me at the grocery store, just materializes next to the apples, all fake smiles. Your split-rail fence is charming, she says, but it clashes with our aesthetic. We'll contribute $2,000 if you'll upgrade to black aluminum. I looked at her, told her my granddad built that fence in '47. She leans in, smile colder than ice water. You'll regret that attitude. And sure enough, a week later, the county inspector shows up. Anonymous complaints, illegal structures, unpermitted additions, environmental violations. I walked him around, showed him every permit, some so old the ink was practically fading. Cost me $3,200 in legal fees just to shut it all down. Turns out Darlene had a habit of running folks off their land, had done it before, almost turned the property next to mine into an HOA green space. That fall, I caught her at the town council meeting, grinning away while pitching this plan to turn the road beside my land into a tourist byway complete with a viewpoint right at my property line. On the way home, I passed a tour bus already idling by my fence. Out-of-state plates, guides with megaphones, tourists snapping photos. I remember standing at Dutch's grave that evening. The wind moving through the pines almost sounded like the old man himself whispering, "Don't let them win, Hollis." But Darlene wasn't done. She filed a petition with the county official stamps, and all claiming there was a historic public easement through my land to the hot springs, that it was some kind of sacred community tradition. She had affidavits from 3 longtime locals, all who'd moved here in 2020, and a doctored letter from Dutch that she'd edited to erase every restriction. The local paper splashed it on the front page: "Developer blocks historic community trail." My coffee burned my tongue so bad I tasted metal for an hour. That weekend, Ramsey, my eldest, sharp as a razor, spread the whole mess out on my kitchen table and started laughing. "Dad, that photo's not even your land." And the real letter? She held up Dutch's version, one-time permission, no precedent, no easement. We hired a surveyor. Cal guy spent 3 weeks walking every inch of property line, delivered a report that basically said Darlene's story was a pile of, well, you know. Her trail was 300 feet east, entirely on HOA land. We filed a monster response, original documents, surveys, affidavits from real old-timers. The county commissioners denied her petition in 20 minutes, flat warned that submitting altered documents might just be fraud. Darlene was livid, caught me outside the courthouse, told me she had resources that'd bury me in paperwork. And I have something you'll never have. I told her roots. People know my family. They don't know you. She called me a hillbilly and promised I'd regret it. That night I sat on the porch with Dutch's whiskey, expensive bourbons for people who don't actually like bourbon, he'd say, and read his old journal. The entry from 1982 told that scout leader he could use the Springs for one weekend. Made it clear this land is a trust, not a commodity. I'd read somewhere, maybe in one of Ramsey's law books, that if you let someone use your land for 20 years straight, they might just claim legal ownership, adverse possession, squatters' rights. Darlene's tours had only been running 18 months, but I didn't plan to let it go a day longer. Around town, people started to talk Dale at the coffee shop, Linda at the bakery. But the folks in Pinnacle Ridge were still too scared to say anything. Then spring rolled around, and suddenly every day there's another tour bus. At first they stayed on the public side of the fence. Then one morning I hear laughter move through the trees, and there's a guide holding up my barbed wire, while 30-some tourists file onto my land, trample wildflowers, scatter an elk herd, snap selfies with my hot springs. I recorded it all, found out Darlene owned 30% of the tour company Majestic Montana Tours. She was pulling $1,000 a week off my land, $68,000 a year. This wasn't harassment, she was farming me. That's when Ramsey put it all together. Dad, she's monetizing your land. That's commercial exploitation. Sue her. But I had a better plan. Put up no trespassing signs, 8 trail cameras, documented every single incident. Sheriff Chuck, good man, but just 2 deputies for 600 square miles, filed the complaint, told me off the record that Darlene was pissing off the wrong people. The tour company updated their website with a little legalese access subject to landowner discretion added after my lawyer sent a cease and desist. But the trespassing, the damage, the garbage, the human waste near the springs, it kept piling up. That's when Cleo, my youngest, visited, watched me fixing the fence for the 3rd time that month, said, "Dad, you look like hell. You can't win defending. You're an engineer, build something that sticks." That night I thought about choke points and controlled flow Army Corps stuff. The problem wasn't keeping people out. It was letting them in, then making them wish they'd never come. And suddenly I remembered the property deed legal language about the approach strip where my driveway met the highway. Turns out in the old days, landowners sometimes owned the actual road access, not the county. I had Cal survey it. Sure enough, my approach strip was intact. 40 feet of what looked like public road but was legally mine. So we filed notice with the county. Darlene found out fast, showed up at my house shaking. "You can't block a highway," she yelled. "Not blocking the highway," I said, "just controlling my approach." Her face was a color I didn't know existed. "You can't win," she hissed. "Never thought I could. But I can make you lose." The county moved the scenic viewpoint she wanted 2 miles down the road. Darlene was furious, but the tours kept running. Only now I waited. Didn't install a gate, not yet. Because I'd learned something, she was impatient, always pushing too hard. Let her get comfortable. Let her get greedy. That's when Ramsey discovered the real twist. Darlene wasn't just greedy, she was drowning in debt. The tour company owed $340,000, 90 days behind on payments, and she'd personally guaranteed the loans. The HOA was also running short bond payments, coming due, budget holes she'd been plugging with the tour revenue. If the tours stopped, she'd lose everything. So I waited. June rolled around and Synergy Solutions, a big tech company, booked a 400-person retreat, 20 buses, $72,000 event. Darlene's biggest payday of the year. She'd already spent the deposit, no way to refund it. And that's when I made my move. Let her bring those buses. Let her fill my land with tourists. Let her commit everything. Then when the moment was right, close the gate. I spent the winter engineering the perfect solution. Steel posts sunk deep, remote-controlled gate cameras everywhere. Tested the timing, 37 seconds from the last person entering to gate closure, safe, smooth, unmissable. Sheriff Chuck knew. Dale knew. Ramsey and Cleo knew. Even Garrett from the HOA board knew to keep an eye out on June 18th. The day of reckoning arrived. 8:45 a.m. 20 buses roll up like a parade from hell. Darlene, all confidence and hairspray, leading her flock right onto my land. Tourists spill out, stretch, laugh, take pictures. I wait, count them off. The last one steps down. I press the button. 8 seconds, the gate swings shut, locks with a satisfying clunk. For a moment, nobody notices. Then panic, screaming, shouting, bus drivers calling dispatch. Darlene runs at me, shrieking, mascara melting in the heat. I sit on the porch, coffee in hand, as calm as a Sunday morning. I get on the PA. You are currently on private property. The tour operator did not have permission. You are free to leave on foot at any time, but the buses stay until I'm satisfied. Some tourists start walking, others just wait, angry and confused. The news crews arrive, film everything. Darlene tries to spin it, calls it illegal imprisonment. The sheriff sets her straight. He owns the land, he can lock the gate. Your buses are trespassing. That's civil, not criminal. And then comes the real twist. Marcus Lyle from Synergy Solutions, mid-40s suit wilting in the heat, confronts Darlene. You guaranteed exclusive access, he says. You owe us $108,000. Darlene buckles right there, can't even answer her phone. Noon hits 94 degrees. Kids, miserable adults, furious media everywhere. Patricia from the Gazette arrives. I hand her a USB with every scrap of evidence, every photo, every financial document. She says, you know, some will call you the villain. I tell her. And the hero to others. Can't please everyone. At exactly 1 p.m., I stand up, announce that I'm opening the gate, and in 8 minutes, those 20 buses tear out of there like a jailbreak. Dust settles. Darlene drives away, not looking back. That was it. 4 hours, 400 people, one steel gate. Sometimes that's all it takes to remind folks what a property line means. The fallout came quick. Patricia's front page story broke it all wide open: fraud, trespassing, financial collapse. Darlene resigned the same day, tour company bankrupt by the end of the month, house repossessed, gone back to Connecticut in a U-Haul by August. Garrett took over the HOA, refunded every bogus fine she'd ever issued, established a scholarship in Dutch's name. I donated 40 acres to the county for a wildlife preserve, no more tours, just kids and elk and clean water. And you know the wildest part? That old legal language from 1947, the part everyone overlooks, saved everything. All Darlene's titles, her megaphone, her HOA rulebook, they meant nothing against one forgotten property line and a little patience. I learned something from all this, and maybe it's worth sharing. Bullies only win when people give up, when we sell out or stop fighting because it feels impossible. But sometimes you just have to wait for the right moment, know the rules better than they do, and push back even if your hands are shaking. So tell me, have you ever dealt with a Darlene? Someone who thought a title gave them real power? Where's the line between justice and revenge? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's hear about your battles. And if you know someone facing an HOA nightmare, send them this story. Sometimes all it takes is seeing somebody stand their ground. Thanks for listening.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.